Okay. Okay, we did that. Okay, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قلنا اهبطوا منها جميعا. Go down from it جميعا. نصب على الحال. زعم الفراء أنه يقال إنما خوطب بها آدم صلى الله عليه وسلم وإبليس بعينه، ويعني ذريته كأنه خاطبهم كما قالتا أتينا طائعين، أي أتينا بما فينا. Right? So basically it's the two of them. So go you, Adam, and those whom you will give birth to, and Shaitan, and those of your lineage. So the idea that the shayateen that they have tanasul, that they procreate. وقال غير الفراء يكون مخاطبة لآدم عليه السلام وحواء والحية. What does it mean والحية? The snake? Which snake?
It's the one that they say Shaitan came in the form of.
Exactly, right? So they say, meaning Israeliyat, right? Could it be true? Could it not be true? Wallahu a'lam. ويجوز أن يكون لآدم وحواء لأن الاثنين جماعة. Right? So that's a مسألة أصولية. ويجوز أن يكون إبليس ضم إليهما في المخاطبة. Because the issue is basically, you've seen how it's written. It says, قُلْنَا اهْبِطُوا مِنْهَا فَإِمَّا يَأْتِيَنَّكُم مِّنِّي. Right? So it sounds like you're speaking to Bani Adam. قُلْنَا اهْبِطُوا مِنْهَا جَمِيعًا. Right? So is Iblis part there, is it not? فَإِمَّا يَأْتِيَنَّكُمْ يَا بَنِي Adam. Right? So here it sounds like it's Bani Adam. So the question is, who's being referred to here? So is it قلنا اهبطا يا آدم وحواء, right? فإما يأتيكم يا بني آدم, right? والله أعلم. فإما يأتينكم ما زائدة، والكوفيون يقولون صلة، والبصريين يقولون فيها معنى التوكيد. Right? They call it صلة. The word صلة is used a lot. Right? So those who are doing the mu'allaqat class, Ibn Ambari's sharh on the mu'allaqat, he uses the word sila a lot. Like it means extra, it means connected to, right? It's quite a general term. والكوفيون يقولون الصلة means extra. So the question is والبصريون يقولون فيها معنى التوكيد. So the question is a sila there's no ta'arud, right? So something can be za'id and for tawkid, right? So za'id means it doesn't add a grammatical function, whereas tawkid could still be there. Like you're saying, ما جاء زيد ولا عمرو. Okay, that's لا حرف نفي زائد. But in reality, it is useful, right? It does add something, but we call it za'id, right? So here, if ever, right? If ever. Mahma, whatever, right? Muhammad, how do you do that in French? Like the difference between what and whatever?
I'm not sure.
What or whatever. N'importe où, right? N'importe quoi.
Quoi is what, and n'importe quoi.
N'importe quoi, right? The what doesn't matter what, doesn't matter. But that's kind of how you
It's
say
not
whatever,
really used
right?
as it's not really used the
It's not
same
the
as
same as whatever, though.
Yeah. N'importe quoi is like nonsense, usually. C'est du n'importe quoi, this is nonsense.
Right. Yeah, it has no, it's not important, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, but it usually means like whatever, n'importe quoi, n'importe où, like it doesn't matter what, doesn't matter where, right?
Yeah.
But the issue is like here is like, so like إذا and إذا ما, right? If and if ever, right? إما إن ما and إما فإن يأتيكم فإما يأتينكم. So if ever, right? Any guidance comes to you. That is زائدة, if ever. Whichever, however. Anyway, so that's what's happening with the ma. And there's like ma al-ibhamiyya, which we use, for example, جاء رجل ما, right? So جاء رجل means a person came. To emphasize the ibham, I say جاء رجل ما, right? لنقل لنفترض أنه جاء رجل ما, right? Let's assume that some person, whoever it is, some man came, right? So the point is I'm trying to make sure that it doesn't really matter. As long as it's a man, as long as it's one of them, it doesn't matter who, why, or what, just, right? رجل ما, right? Some kind of person, right? That's actually a noun though, right? The ma ibhamiyya is a noun, right? But this is a harf, right? For imma is this is for, so it is a sila, meaning it is za'ida, but it's for tawkid as well, right? ومعنى التوكيد يأتينكم في موضع جزم بالشرط والنون مؤكدة، أي نون توكيد. وإذا دخلت ما شبهت بلام القسم فحسونا المجيء بالنون والله لا يفعلن كذا، right? فإما يأتين كذا. فحسنا مجيء بالنون وجواب الشرط فإما يأتينكم. So this is so we're going to say basically يأتين is he calls it في موضع الجزم, right? He doesn't say مجزوم. في محل جزم. It's not مجزوم. مجزوم means there's the amal of jazm and then the alama is there. But here there's the amal of jazm with no alama. So it's في موضع جزم. في موقف يفترض وجود الجزم. Right? That's what it is. في محل جزم, right? في موقف, في موضع, في مكان يفترض, right? لولا المانع وجود الجزم. Okay? That's what we mean by محل كذا. وجواب الشرط الفاء في قوله فمن تبع هدايا. So notice the جواب الشرط is a جملة شرطية. Right? So فإن يأتيكم, right? So it's like saying this. If if the customer selects B, then if the customer selects a shirt, then if this, then this, right? So what's happening is there's an if A, then if this, then this, and if this, then this, and if this, then this, right? So you're having a condition within a condition, right? So the jumla the jawab al-shart is itself a jumla shartiyya, right? فمن تبع هدايا فمن في موضع رفع وتبع في موضع الجزم بالشرط, right? So it's in the place where you should have jazm because it should say ومن يتبع, right? فلا خوف عليه, right? جوابه وقال الكسائي في فلا خوف عليه جواب الشرطين جميعا. وقرأ عاصم الجحدري وعيسى وابن أبي إسحاق فمن تبع هديه, right? This is like لغة هذيل, right? قال أبو زيد هذه لغة هذيل يقولون هدية وعصية, right? وأنشد النحويون سبقوا هوي وأعنقوا لهواهم فتخرموا ولكل جنب مصرع. So there's no sukun here, the dhamma, right? So we notice we saw this, where is it? Remember here we spoke about the importance of knowing those four buhur, right? له زاجل what was this? مفاعلة فعول, was it? له زجل. Oh, it was dropping this who here, right? It wasn't lahu zajalun. It was what was it? We said
I think the second who was
oh,
dropped.
the second one, yeah. له زجل كأنه صوت حاد. Yeah, right. له زجل كأنه صوت, right? مفاعلة, right? So similarly, so here we only understood this, right? Like I want to understand Quran. In order to understand Quran, I need to understand poetry. In order to understand poetry, I need this. تصل إلى ما تحتاج إليه بما لا تحتاج إليه, right? This is these things, right? We try and limit those things as much as possible, but this is how it is. I don't care about the العروض, but I need in as much as I need to understand what's going on, I need to know these things. So similarly here, سبقوا. So here that's why, for example, like one of the things I teach 3 classes in poetry and 1 class in Quran, right? 3 classes right now. Jamharat Ash'ar al-Arab, that was 2 hours ago. And we have in the mornings in my mornings or evenings and my mornings in Malaysia, and we have we're doing Sharh Ash'ar al-Hudhaliyin, right? Sharh Ash'ar by Ibn Sakit, right? And then we have the other class, which is well, depends where you're on the world, in about 10 hours or less than that. About how many hours? No, in about 24 hours. Sorry, in about 24 hours, we have not 24 hours, 22 hours. We have the mu'allaqat, right? So in order to, I see Hudayya, I'm before I get to this line, I already know. فَمَنْ تَبِعْ Hudayya. I already know because I already know the line of poetry. سَبَقُوا هَوَيَّ. Right? وَأَعْنَقُوا. And then I already know this is wrong because I did this. سَبَقُوا هَوَيَّ وَأَعْنَقُوا لِهَوَاهُمُ. And this is كامل. متفاعل متفاعل. So it's not hum, it's humu. سبقوا هوي متفاعل. يا وأعنقوا متفاعل. لهواهم وأعنقوا لهواهم لي مت لها لهوا متفاعل لهواهم متفاعل. See, right? So it's لهواهم فتخرموا ولكل جنب مصرع. Okay. قال أبو جعفر العلة في هذا عند الخليل وسيبويه، وهذا معنى قولهما أن سبيل الياء الإضافة, right, meaning my, أن يكسر ما قبلها، فلما لم يجوز أن تتحرك الألف، you couldn't put a حركة ذا، جعل قبلها جعل ما قبلها، not جعل قبلها، جعل ما قبلها ياء عوضا من التغيير, right? So yeah, so basically they couldn't change the alif, they couldn't put a kasra on the alif, so they put a kasra on what's before the alif. So then the alif became a yeah. Does that make sense? Hawayya. Not really. Hawayya. ما قبل جعل ما قبلها ياء عوضا من التغيير. So we say hawaya, and they're saying change the alif into a ya, hawaya. So that because you couldn't put a kasra on the alif, because you couldn't put a kasra on the alif, you changed what was before it, the alif or the ya. What was before the ya. جعل ما قبل الياء قبل ياء الإضافة, the ya of my, ياء عوضا من التغيير, right? Now again, if you ask Western linguists, they're going to look in a different way, right? Because they're going to look at it as what we call assimilation of semi-vowels, right? So the Arabs, they don't have this concept. They don't have the concept of shibh sawa'it, semi-vowels, right? So they look at things as like haraka and sukoon, things like that. So if slightly different way of looking at things. So what the way that they look at it is very different. So here there's an assimilation. There's the alif is the ya is a semi-vowel, right? And the alif is a vowel, so there's assimilation between the two of them. Right? That's what it's a slightly different thing. وقرأ الحسن وعيسى وابن أبي إسحاق فلا خو. I don't know what it is. So فلا خوف فلا خوف عليهم. Presumably لا خوف. That makes sense. Because then he says والاختيار, right? Even though. والاختيار عند النحويين الرفع والتنوين لأن الثاني معرفة تون لا يكون فيه إلا رفع فاختاروا في الأول الرفع أيضا ليكون الكلام من وجه واحد. What's going on here? So it says فلا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. So anyway, there's a قراءة فلا خوف ولا خوف. Why is it explaining this? اختاروا واختيار عند النحويين الرفع والتنوين لأن الثاني معرفة. Where's the ثاني? Where's the ثاني that's معرفة?
Does he mean هم يحزنون?
Sounds strange, right?
Yeah.
اختاروا في الأول الرفع أيضا ليكون الكلام من وجه واحد والثاني فلا يكون فيه إلا رفع لأن الثاني معرفة لا يكون فيه إلا رفع أو هم is a definite word that is only yeah, so it's not because the second word is definite, is the second word is a ma'rifah, i.e. is a noun which could only ever be marfu'. So it would be awkward to have فلا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. It's a bit odd. I don't see. I guess they have a dha'iqah that I don't have, so I guess I can't say that's odd, but it seems a bit strange. Anyway, the question is, what does that even mean? لا خوف عليهم. Okay. So let's just pause for a second and go off piece for a second. Right. So I have the sentence أنا أخاف عليهم. Right. أنا أخاف عليهم. Okay. وأنت تخاف عليهم. وهو يخاف عليهم. Right? So how am I going to make this general? I want to make this general. How am I going to do this? I fear for them. Notice khiftu alayhim, I feared for him, right? How am I going to make this general? I fear for them, you fear for them, he fears for them. How am I going to generalize this? How can I make it general? Rephrase it in one general way.
خيف عليهم.
خيف عليهم or يخاف عليهم, right? يخاف عليهم, like they are feared for, right? يخاف عليهم. So right, you say I eat bread, you eat bread, they eat bread, bread is eaten, right? So you make the passive, right? One way of making the passive is to make this general, right? خيف عليهم, right? So I want to say, right? So then I said لا يخاف عليهم, they are not feared for. That means أنا لا أخاف عليهم, أنت لا تخاف عليهم, هو لا يخاف, لا أحد يخاف عليهم. So you say لا يخاف عليهم, right? I don't know him, you don't know him, they don't know him, he is unknown. He is not known in these parts, right? So we often use the passive in this way, right? So then what happens is we move from this verb to give this permanence, right? لا خوف عليهم, right? لا خوف, okay? So notice that عليهم is not the khabar of khawf or the khabar of la. It is the muta'allaq. It is muta'alliq to khawf. Notice that, right? خفت عليك, I feared for you. لا خوف عليهم, there is no fearing for them. i.e. لا خوف عليهم موجود. Okay? So now let's try and bring in if we put in this, we're going to have a problem. Because if this is muta'alliq to this, okay, then when you put la before something that is not mufrad, okay, because it has something that is of its tatimma, then what happens? You say la khawfan alayhim. That's what you would say. If you want to say there is no fearing for them, and to do not left al-jins, you say la khawfan alayhim, not la khawfa alayhim. Does that make sense? Because this is muta'alliq to this. أي لا خوفا عليهم موجود. There is no fearing for them. Nobody is fearing for them. Right? It doesn't mean there's no fear on them. Right? That's not what it means. So that's what you would say. If you use la, you do this. So we have another problem, is we have a similar sentence. لا عاصم اليوم من أمر الله. Right? So من أمر الله is متعلق تعاصم. So again, it's problematic. Why isn't it? It should be لا عاصما اليوم من أمر الله. It's somewhat problematic, right? Or confusing anyway. So this is the default, is you say يا لطيفا بعباده, right? يا مارا بزيد, لا مرورا بزيد هنا, right? Does that make sense? So you could say لا خوف عليهم or لا خوفا عليهم, but you couldn't say لا خوف عليهم. Why? Because عليهم is متعلق to it, right? Unless you say it's not متعلق. That means there is no fear on them, right? But I don't know if you say that in Arabic, right? But we do say خفت عليك, I feared for you, right? To fear for somebody, right? Is to خفت عليك, right? خيف عليهم. Okay, makes sense, guys?
Why does the تعلق prevent تنوين?
Why does the ta'alluq prevent the tanween?
Yeah.
It doesn't prevent the tanween, it causes the tanween.
Oh, yeah. Why does it force?
Why does it do that? Because why does it do that? That's just the rule. The rule is that basically the la, or the la ilaha illa jins, and in munada as well, when it is مضاف أو شبيه بالمضاف, then it has a tanween.
Oh,
That's just the rule. So مضاف will be يا عبد الله, right? Has a fatha, يا عبد and يا عبد الله. But also, for example,
عبدا
yeah,
لله. So the same thing here with
no,
Ali.
so يا عبد so but that's something else. But lillahi, that's not متعلق to it. But like for example, يا مارا بزيد, that's what you say. يا مارا بزيد, not يا مار بزيد. That's not correct, right? And so same thing with la. If it is mudaf or shabih al-mudaf, it's gonna be mu'rab. It's gonna have a tanween. So it seems to be like it's kind of like the idafa or because the idafa is of the khasa'is of the asma, it makes it mu'rab again. And if it's mu'rab, it has to have a tanween. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. As opposed to la khawfa, it's so the Kufiyun, they say it's mu'rab with a fatha, but the Basrians say it's not mu'rab anymore. Because if it's mu'rab, we have a tanween. So when you say la khawfa or la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, right? That's mabni ala fatah. Right? Okie dokie.
Is
So
there
anyway,
like
go ahead.
is when they say like شبيه بالمضاف, is there a specific set of things that they mean?
It's the thing that comes after it. So it's usually ta'alluq. So the maf'ul bihi fa'il ya wasi'an fadluhu, right? Ya wasi'an fadluhu, right? That's going to be that's يذكر ما بعده ما هو من تتمته, right? So things like مضاف إليه, the something متعلق to it, it's فاعل, it's معمول, يا طالعا جبلا لا طالعا جبلا هنا, things like that.
So something that narrows it down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But for you say, for example, يا عبدا لله, I don't think that's correct. يا عبدا لله. There's things like a jumla that comes after nakira. يا طالبا لا يا طالبا تخلف عن وعده. So that's the jumla is describing it. So you do that. But yeah, abdan lillahi, I don't think so as far as I recall. Yeah, abdan lillahi. Oh, a slave of Allah. I don't think we say that. So yeah, abdan lillahi could mean this with yeah, for example. Yeah, abdan lillahi would mean oh, some kind of slave that belongs to Allah. Right? Like you say, yeah, rajulan, that means oh, some kind of man. Wallahu alam. So anyway, this term is what we call mufrad or mudaf or shabih bil mudaf. So mufrad meaning it's just one thing, like khawf. Whereas, yeah. Okay, so anyway, look this up. So this is going to come here, and it's also going to come where in la asim al yawma min amrillah. Right. So if you look up Samin al-Hadabi here, and also la asim al-yawma min amrillah, what's happening there? It's a bit complex. And then there's another scenario, it's a bit like that, is la aba lakum. That's a bit weird because it's not really mudaf. So what you should say la aba lakum. There's no reason why you have to say la aba lakum. Why is the alif there? Yeah, la aba lakum. But it's kind of like they're making it mudaf even though it's not mudaf. But then if it was mudaf, it will become ma'rifah, so that doesn't make any sense either. So you can't say la abakum. That doesn't make any sense because la is only for nakirat, and nor does it make any sense to say la aba lakum because it shouldn't. If you only have the alif if it's mudaf, but it's not mudaf. But it's like they're treating it as mudaf but not mudaf. So you don't say la aba lakum. You say la aba lakum with an alif. So that is also the whole discussion there, like what on earth is happening there? Why are they saying la aba lakum? But it's as if they're treating it as mudaf. Allahu a'lam. Okay. So there's a lot of things in grammar that's like chemistry, right? So if you think about like say chemical bonds and things like that, you know, when like sharing electrons, like it's kind of there but not there, you know, like how can you share electrons? What does that even mean? It kind of doesn't really make sense from certain angles. It makes sense from other angles. Allahu a'lam. Okay. والذين رفعا بالابتداء كفروا من صلته. Right. So here the sila literally the sentence that comes after it. وكذبوا عطف على كفروا بآياتنا خفض بالباء أولئك مبتدأ أصحاب النار خبره والجملة خبر الذين وهم فيها خالدون ابتداء وخبر في موضع نصب على الحال. Right. So here we go, is it? والذين كفروا وكذبوا بآياتنا أولئك أصحاب النار حال كونهم فيها خالدون. Right? That's why he makes it a حال here. Right? أولئك أصحاب النار خالدين فيها. That's what it means. هم فيها خالدون. So, but usually put a wow there. Right? أولئك أصحاب النار وهم فيها خالدون. Right? That would make it a حال. So the question is, how is it? جملة usually a جملة حالية usually has, where's the wow? أولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها. He put a wow here, didn't he? Where's this wow coming from?
It might have been just the editor thought the wow is part of the brackets.
Yeah. He just added it. وهم فيه. So this is somewhat problematic. What I'm trying to say is making it a hal is somewhat problematic, not really, but kind of somewhat problematic. Anyway. يا بني نداء مضاف وعلامة النصب فيه الياء وحذفت منه النون للإضافة. Right? يا بنين إسرائيل. يا بنين إسرائيل. Right? يا بنين. الواحد ابن والأصل فيه بناي وقيل فيه بنا one. Right? That is originally with a wow. ولو لم يحذف منه لقيل بنن كما يقال عصا. Right? فمن قال المحذوف منه واو احتج بقولهم بنوة. Right? Meaning being the child of someone. وهذا لا حجة فيه لأنهم قالوا الفتوة even though فتوة chivalry being because it's from the word, even though it's from the word فتى with the alif مقصورة فتى. Right? So that's there's no proof in it. قال أبو جعفر سمعت أبا إسحاق يقول المحذوف منه عندي ياء كأنه من بنيت. Right? To build something. Right? Now here's a question, why can't it be ثنائي? دم أب يد أخ. Why can't it be ثنائي? So what they'll say is they say, well, it can't be ثنائي because look, when you make it plural, it becomes أبناء. So there's an al-hamza at the end, right? If you made it small, it became bunay, right? If you did tasghir, right? So they'll say things like, oh, because if you do tasghir of it, then the asl comes back. Dumayyah, meaning a small blood thing. Small blood. Right? Yudayyah, right? But that might be added just for the structure, right? So why can't we have words that are thuna'i, right? Words that have two root letters only. And then alhamdulillah. And then we've added things to them, with things that are added to them in order to build the structure. Why not? You know? And then you say, well, there's ijma', that's wrong. Okay. The ijma' is only in things that are religious. It's not a religious matter. So I'm just saying, why not? Why can't we have things that are thuna'i?
I think in مراحل الأرواح he presents an argument for why the least number of حروف must be three. I don't remember why he says exactly.
Good, maybe you could paste it in the chat, inshallah.
Yeah, if I can find it, inshallah.
Yeah. But it's important that two things. Number one, Nahu and Lugha are not, these are not ulum shar'iyya. These are, right, they're not. So in which case, like, there's no issue with ijma', or I can't go against ijma', right? At the same time, you can't be proud, right? So remember Sheikh Ali Hani, I'd ask him questions like this, and he say, like, he says, I don't know if any of the scholars said it. Be very humble and like just check. Because in reality, this is what happens today: is you find somebody who's studying the West, or basically everybody's studying the West, even if they study in the East, and they have pride issues, and they haven't read the tradition properly. So it's one thing is that you've read the tradition and you disagree with it. The other thing is you haven't read the tradition. You don't even know what's going on. Like you haven't read Radi, you haven't read any of these things. It's kind of like they don't even understand them, right? So, it's a big difference. That's number one. Number two is that our scholars of the past, they didn't really look at comparative Semitic languages. Here and there it came up. Whereas now it's much more of a thing, right? So you looking at, for example, you have an idea, right? And one of these things, like a lot of these things is linguistics and historical linguistics specifically, sometimes they'll have an ijtihad that is 100% correct, right? And it makes complete sense, right? And like, so for example, like the word man, right? The word man is an ism and it should be mu'rab. If you look in Akkadian, right, in ancient Akkadian, which is one of the it basically I think is the earliest Semitic language preserved, 4,000, 5,000 years ago, right? They say manum with a temyin and manim and manam, right? And so it's actually ma'rab. And then to the Arabs then treated it mabni because they said it's like a harf, right? So there's lots of things that you can find that could be supported, but the issue is, what if, for example, you looked at different Semitic languages and they all had two root letters for these words, and then you go out further and you find, for example, in Afro-Asiatic languages like Chadic languages, like Berber, like in ancient Egyptian, you also find, for example, it has two root letters, right? Then they say, no, it has three root letters. Like, really? So when you say hadf, right? Hadf is things like, for example, af'ala, like we've seen it. You can say akrama yukrimu. You can also say akrama yuakrimu. So we actually have evidence of it. You actually have a missing link. But if you never found a missing link, then you kind of have a problem. You know what I'm saying? And even if you go really far back, say, oh, this, it was dropped. Like, well, when was it ever there to begin with? Wallahu a'lam. Anyhow, the point is, practically speaking, we deal with it as banuna. As banina, it has a ya or waw that's dropped. And the i'rab of it is like jama' mudhakkar is mulhaq with jama' mudhakkar salim, right? Banuna and banina. So it's banuna Israel, banu Israel, ya bani Israel. Israel في موضع خفض إلا أنه. So he says موضع خفض is almost making it mabni. He's making it mabni. في موضع في محل خفض. We wouldn't say في محل خفض, we say مخفوض. وإسرافيل مخفوض. Right? إلا أنه لا ينصرف لعجومته. Right? We use the word عجمة. But he's saying about عجومة. Right? ويقال إسرائيل بغير ياء. وبهمزة مكسورة إسرائيل. And إسرائيل. وتميم يقولون إسرائيل. إسرائيل. This is a very common thing. That the ra and the lam and the noon swap around. Very common. Portukan, Portugal. Some Arabs say Portukan instead. Right? What is it? Trying to think of words in English you do that. L and a. So Chinese people they'll change the ra into R into an L, right? Because they're similar makhraj. But noon and lam, I'm trying to think of words where they move around. So pilgrim is one of them. Pilgrim. So we say pilgrim, G-R-I-M, grim, but that's not a good example. But it's peregrine, peregrine, right? The word is peregrine, so it's put it with an R, but it changed it to an L. Trying to think of other questions, other examples of that, but it happens anyway. So changing of so that's not surprising at all. يقولون إسرائيل as opposed to Israel is a very common thing throughout the world, right? And so here's another issue as well, right? Is when we're going to find our lughawiyin looking at certain phenomena that apply in Arabic. Some of these phenomena are not unique to Arabic. And so it may well be that somebody who studies comparative linguistics actually has a better explanation than Siboy. And that's okay. That's not like, it's at the end of the day, what's happening. Or for example, that somebody, in Tajweed, they might describe something in a certain way. Okay, and so their description is based on let's say, for example, they didn't have the technology to describe where the tongue was. And we say, no, the tongue's here. And it's like, oh, that's wrong. That's okay. So Tajweed is shara'i and not shara'i. Like half of it is to do with just pronunciation, which is not really shara'i, right? It's not actually revelation itself. Wallahu a'lam. Okay. اذكروا حذف النون منه لأنه أمر وحذفت الألف لأنه ألف وصل وضممتا وضممتها في ابتداء لأنه من يذكر. right. نعمتي التي تحريك الياء أكثر من في كلام العرب إذا لقيت ألف ولام فإذا أسكنتها حذفت اللقاء. So that would be نعمة التي. See نعمتي التي or نعمتي التي. You can say both, but it says usually. Going to put a حركة there. التي في موضع نصب نعت لنعمتي. أنعمت عليكم من صلتها وأوفوا بعهدي أمر. أوفي بعهدكم جواب الأمر مجزوم لأن فيه معنى المجازة. وقرأ الزهري أوفي بعهدكم على التكثير. Right, so notice فعل for تكثير. So وفى بالعهد وفى بالعبد. Like موتت الإبل, right? They all died in one go, right? So موتك, you say that in Tunisian, Muhammad Amin?
No, not really.
Yeah, like I'll kill you, موتك, yeah. So that's what they in Levant use that, like موتك, I'll kill you. So that means for causation, right? But موت means to die in a lot. So they all died. موتت الإبل, all the camels died, right? So here أوفي بعهدي, I will do it for تكثير, right? ويقال وفى بالعهد أيضا. وإياي فارهبون وقع الفعل على النون والياء وحذفت الياء لأنه رأس آية. وقرأ ابن أبي إسحاق فارهبوني بالياء وكذا فاتقوني. وإياي منصوب بإضمار فعل أي في محل نصب إضمار فعل وكذا الاختيار في الأمر والنهي والنفي, right? So that means ارهبوا وإياي ارهبوا فارهبوني, right? Because basically there's two maf'ul bihis. They can't be like this verb has one maf'ul bihis. They can't both have the same maf'ul bihi. خير. I just want to go on a short tangent, if that's okay, to talk about إياي فارهبوني, and I want to bring up let's just bring up Alusi, see what that comes up with. Alusi وإياي فارهبون. Okay, just look at some of the balagha here. So he says, my blessing. He doesn't say your blessing. He says, أضاف سبحانه أو هؤلاء المخاطبون إلى هذا النقب. Sorry, there's something else. تأكيدا لتحري لتحريكهم إلى طاعته. فإن في إسرائيل ما ليس في اسمه الكريم يعقوب أو slave of God. كقولك يا ابن الصالح أطع الله. Right? وأحث للتأمير من قولك يا ابن زيد مثلا أطع. لأن الطبائع تميل إلى اقتداء أثر الآباء وإن لم يكن محمودا فكيف إذا كان. ويستعمل في هذا في مقام الترغيب وترهيب بناء على أن الحسنة في نفسها حسنة وهي من بيت البنوة أحسن. Right. Uh, وإياي فارهبون. الرهبة الخوف مطلقا وقيل مع تحرز to avoid something وبه فارق الاتقاء لأنه مع حزم resolve to do something ولهذا كان الأول العامة والثاني الأمة. والأشبه بمواقع الاستعمال أن الاتقاء التحفظ عن المخوف to avoid things that are feared وأن يجعل نفسه في وقاية منه to put yourself in a place where you can save yourself from it. والرهب نفس الخوف وفي الأمر بها وعيد بالغ وليس ذلك للتهديد والتهويل كما في اعملوا ما شئتم. Right? Do whatever you want. That's a threat. كما وهم أن هذا مطلوب وذاك غير مطلوب. وإياي ضمير منصوب المحل not منصوب بمحذوف يفسره مذكور. والفاء عند بعضهم جزائية زحلفت من الجزاء المحذوف إلى مفسره ليكون دليلا على تقدير الشرط. ويحتمل أن تكون مفسرة للفاء الجزائية عفوا المحذوفة مع الجزاء، ومن أطلق الجزائية عليها فقد توسع، ولا يجوز أن تكون عاطفة لئلا يجتمع عاطفان. واختار صاحب المفتاح أنها للعطف على الفعل محذوف، أي فإن أريد التعقيب الزماني أفادت طلب استمرار رهبة في جميع الأزمنة بلا تخلل فاصل، وأن أريد الرتبي كان مفادها طلب الترقي من رهبة إلى رهبة أعلى، ولا يقدح في ذلك اجتماعها مع واو العطف مثلا، لأن عطف محذوف على ما قال هذه الفاء لعطف المذكور على المحذوف، وكون فرهبوني مفسر محذوف لا يقتضي اتحاده به من جميع الوجوه، وأن لا يفيد معنى سوى التفسير حتى لا يصح جعلها عاطفة. واستحسن هذا بعض المتأخرين اشتماله على معنى بديع خلت عنه الجزائية. قال بعضهم كالمتوسط في المسألة إنها عاطفة بحسب الأصل. دا 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 دا. Here we go. والمعنى إن كنتم متصفين بالرهبة فخصوني بالرهبة. Right. فإن كنتم متصفين وإياي فارهبوني، وإن كنتم متصفين برهبة ما فازدادوا برهبة زائدة بي. Right. فحذف متعلق رهبة للعموم، أي ارهبوني في جميع ما تأتون وتذرون. وقيل ارهبوني في نقض العهد. okay. So this is the key thing. So this fa here, where is it? إن كنتم متصفين فخصوني بالرهبة. Right, that's what I was looking for. Um, وإياي فارهبون. I just want to look somewhere else. Um, not sure if it's going to actually available here. Ibn Hamjid. No. Can't find Ibn Tamjid. I can find it as a PDF. Just pick open it as a PDF. It's okay. Just trying to find it in the PDF, okay? Because it's quite. This is Hashit al-Qunawi and Ibn Tamjid on Tafsir al-Baydawi. It has lots of things in it. These are very late. Lughawi. Which ayah are we on? 40. 41, right? Or 40. 40. Already in volume 3. So the first two volumes are like. So Baqarah, they do a lot of things in Baqarah. So it's always, whenever you're trying to find something in tafsir, find something that's like it this early on. Because what they'll do is they'll deal with that problem in Nahu earlier on, and then they won't deal with it again. So you're looking in the middle of the Quran and you don't find anything. They don't explain everything all the time, right? So here he spent 2 volumes getting up to ayah 40, you know? Whereas if you go later surahs, here we go. Okay. So he's saying, وهو آكد من إفادة التخصيص من إياك نعبد. So وإياي فارهبون is more emphatic in its تخصيص, in its specificity than this. لما فيه, so he's explaining قونوي, so he says, let's just read here. لما فيه إلى آخره غير التخصيص الدال عليه إياك نعبد. زيادة تكرير repeating the مفعول به دونه, والفاء الجزائية الدالة على أن الرهبة من غير لا تجدي ولا تنجي. Right. إن أردت إيقاع ما تخافون. وفي الكشاف وهو من قولك زيد ها زيد ارهبه not ارهبته. وهو أوكد في إفادة تخصيص من إياك نعبد. قال الطيبي وما قاله القاضي عباضاوي على خلاف ما رآه صاحب الكشاف جعل التركيب من باب الإضمار على الشريط التفسيري that there has to be on the condition that there's explaining after it. لقوله هو من قولك زيدا I think it's اضربنه not اضربه. I don't know what the tag is. فإن هذا التركيب أكد آكد not أكد آكد في إفادة تخصيص من إياك نعبد. آه أما زيدا عرفته. same as that. Right, so here Taftazani says this. Imam Taftazani says قد سبق أن مثل زيدا ضربت يفيد الاختصاص. Right, زيد I struck, nobody else. فإذا نقل إلى الإضمار على شرط تفسير مثل زيدا ضربته ودلت على قرينة عن أن المحذوف ويقدر مؤخرا كان أوكد في إفادة اختصاص، لأن اختصاص عبارة عما عبارة عن إثبات صار أوكد على أن الإثبات للاحق ويمكن أن يعتبر على وجه الاختصاص بقرينة كونه من أدوات الحصر حينئذ يتكرر اختصاص فيصير أوكد، وكذا الكلام فيما إذا كان فعله امرأة etc. Right. and the same thing here. فلذلك فليفرحوا أي إن كنتم ستفرحون بشيء فخصوا هذا بالفرح. وربك فكبر أي خص ربك بالتكبير. ودخول الفاء لمعنى الشرط كأنه قيل ما يكن whatever the case فلا تدع تكبيره. Right. أو مهما كبرت فكبر ربك. Right. أي مهما يكون من شيء فلا تترك وصفه بالكبرياء. وقريب منه ما يقال إن مثله على حذف أما أي أما زيد فاضرب، وقد يجمع بين الطريقين أعني دخول الفاء وتكرير إثبات بأن يرجع الفعل مشغول بالضمير نحو زيدا فاضربه وعليه وإياي فاعبدون وإياي فارهبون، وينبغي أن يكون أوكر من أول الكلمة. So that's the general meaning. He says وتعليقه بالشرط العام الذي هو وقوع شيء ما تأكيد على تأكيد. Right? It makes it even more emphatic. So it's extremely emphatic. That's what I'm trying to say.
الشرط العام meaning مهما يكن.
Yeah. Whatever happens, do this. Okay. Okay. So the point is they're kind of going to the subtleties of what is the most but the general idea we get. Right. Whatever happens, do this. Or if you're going to fear anything, then fear Allah.
Is this the فاء they call الفصيحة?
No, فاء الفصيحة something else.
Mm.
فاء الفصيحة comes at the beginning of a sentence. It's like this. أفصحت عن أفصحت. It means أفصحت عن what does it mean? They say أفصحت عن الشرط.
I think it's أفصحت عن شرط محذوف something.
محذوف. Yeah. So it's like this. Then how do you explain it? It's like how do you translate it? It's like because you got to translate it as then, right? So if you would like to hear about the relied upon position, then what so and so said in this book is this. So it's like that. Yeah, that's أفصحت عن جواب yeah عن شرط محذوف. Right. So it's that comes at the beginning of a sentence, different. But this is basically so there's a fa that is used that has a meaning of shartiya, but it's not really shartiya. So it's like, for example, it comes within mubtada and khabar, right? You could have so it comes when you do hadf, when you change the tartib or something, right? بناء عليه فإن وبناء عليه فإن. What it means is المذهب كذا بناء على كذا, but then you changed the order, so you said بناء عليه فإن المذهب كذا, right? So that's a fa that has the meaning of a shart, but it's not really shartiya. So it comes when you put the jar and majrur first, when you change things around. It's like the comma in English, right? So you would say on it, regardless of what has previously mentioned, comma this. That comma is not needed if you change the sentence normally. You can say this is the case regardless of what happens, but you say regardless of what happens, comma. So it's like that fa comes in that situation. But the fa al-fasiha is something else. Fa al-fasiha is a fa that is for jawab al-shart. There is actually a shart, but the shart is just muqaddar. Right? And it's more a kind of a style than anything else. It's like the use of the word kama. So like in modern standard Arabic, we can start a paragraph with kama, right? Meaning like likewise, right? But it's not, kama is always part of a sentence, right? Darastu kama darasta, right? So it has to be muta'alliq. It has to be muta'alliq to a sifa of a masdar mahdhuf. That's how it works. You know. Okay, khair. Shall I stop here? وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. So my apologies for that tangent. Inshallah, we'll continue next week.